to check in. I've just hung up from a client and we had this pretty intense session for her. And so I just thought I'd share, I guess, some of what I talked to her about, because it was a pretty big topic. It was how to have some difficult conversations in the business when they're with a key stakeholder, key partner relationship in the business. How do you do that? Particularly when you've been working together for a very long time, you know each other super, super well. And what happens on those days when it doesn't go according to plan, or perhaps there is some strain and tension within the partnership? And this has come up with a few clients in the past over the last few years, because sometimes we go into business with people who we think will be an ideal match in business. You might have same talents, get on really well, and it starts out great guns. It's fabulous. But then somewhere along the way, things don't go as smoothly as they could. People change, ideas of how to run business are different, and people end up with a little conflict, sometimes a lot of conflict. So this particular lady has a fair bit of conflict going on at the moment, and it's making it really, really difficult to have some of those deep, necessary, and sometimes what could be labelled tricky or challenging or horrendous conversations that actually really have to happen. So I want to give you the how-to of how I help women have those conversations. And they're tough ones, okay? I would say firstly, make sure that they are conversations that you have in your own private environment, i.e. not in front of team, okay? Make sure they are taken offline, not in the middle of the work environment where everyone can listen to them, okay? They really have to be done as private conversations. So into the boardroom, out of the workspace, into a coffee shop if necessary, outside. Go and take it as a walk and talk meeting. You'll find, I think some of those confrontational conversations when they're side by side walking can be much calmer. You've got natural air, you've got fresh air going on, so they can be much calmer. So outside, okay, particularly away from team. And then it's about being really respectful with each other and saying, well, you know, we've got some stuff going on here. We obviously have to have some tricky conversation. I think it's important to acknowledge that it's not an easy conversation to have. This is an uncomfy conversation for me to have. However, it's really important for us, for our business, for us as individual leaders within the business, and most importantly for team. And you know, it's a really interesting one. I get a lot of people say, well, how do we have the conversation? Okay. And rather than focusing on how to have the conversation, I want you to go back to why. Go to why is this conversation between the two of you, imagine they're sitting here now, why is this conversation so important? Okay. Why? And when you can label and language why it's really, really important for you, that's going to help. Because if you have a clear why, the how is much easier and will take care of itself. So what would be your why? Why does it matter for you to have the difficult conversation? Is it one, because it's important for you to speak your own mind, okay, to be able to share your opinions, to have your voice, not perhaps get squashed or shut down or your opinions and thoughts discounted, okay? They're not on the table because you aren't able to speak them. I do a lot of work around developing voice with the ladies in our group, and it's really important because you must have a voice in the business, okay? You must be able to be heard, to articulate yourself. Now, language isn't a great and easy thing for everyone. It doesn't roll off your tongue. Some of us are greater at it and others aren't, so that's okay. Language is something you can really practice at. However, having that space and opportunity to speak is really, really key. So your why might be to be heard, okay? It might also be the why, because it matters for team. If you have conflict within the team because at the top there's a partnership or stakeholder relationships that aren't smooth and aren't really, really good for the business, then they're number one, sort those out first. There's this really yucky saying, I'm going to say it anyway, the fish stinks from the head down, okay? If at the top you and your business partner or the key leaders in the business aren't communicating well, then it's going to have a ripple effect down to team, and that's going to be harming team. You won't have a productive, high-performing, efficient team if the communications aren't clear, and they've got to be clear at the top first. So often the why is about you developing your voice, okay, and being heard. it's about team and having a really high performing and capable team that are communicating well. So communication is key. Now the other why else could it be really important for you? Mostly because of customer and clients. Okay, if the internal communication isn't great, then that is going to somehow be having an impact outward towards your customer and client. And I think in the long run, that's crucial. Okay, that's really, really important because you're not delivering on your service or your products as well as you can be if the internal communications aren't awesome and aren't clear. So think about your why. You need a really strong why to have these difficult conversations. And then, importantly, you're going to have some courage. Now, you might be able to see the picture in the back here. This is one of my favourite pieces of art that I did. And it has a cool story because it's all about courage. And that picture represents courage for me because I had a close person, shall we say, a nearest and dearest say, they didn't like it. They weren't going to take it as a gift to a friend that I'd actually created it for because they didn't think it was good enough. So I actually keep this picture. I didn't deliver it to the lady in the long run because I wanted to keep it to remind myself that self-belief and knowing in my heart what matters and why something is important is way, way, way more than getting stuck on the how-to. If you've got the courage is your how. If you've got the self-belief, okay, and you've got the heart that's going with it, because your heart knows that communication's key, team matters, high-performance customer and clients matter, then you will really, really be able to have those difficult conversations. So back to my client this morning, she is powering on, okay, we've had a great session and we've really talked a lot about language and being able to articulate yourself clearly, calmly, okay, make sure you're outside of the environment. If you're trying to have a big heated conversation with someone in the middle of the workspace, okay, middle of everybody's team environment, then that's not cool. Take it offline, take it outside, be side by side if that helps, or next to, never across from, okay, never make sure you're having some of those difficult conversations directly opposite. That's a really very confrontational environment to have it in. So be more of that side by side or walking side by side. It's really cool too. So listen, trust that helps. It's a quick one. I've got to get back onto another call. It's time. So have an awesome day and big love from Jen. If you've got something you'd like to ask, please message me or post below and hashtag Ask Jen. Speak soon. Bye now.